Okay, so thanks everyone for coming. So the idea for today, so thanks George, Jeffrey, Benny, and the rest of the AI club for inviting me for this presentation. The idea is to talk a little bit about what is behind to starting an AI company. So this is a little bit confidential. So I trust on the guys who are joining the presentation that they will not be sharing too much, because the idea is more about the how, not only about the what we have been doing. And the second piece of the presentation is about what we are doing in Chile about AI, and what were the main things that we were considering when we wrote. We just finished the AI manifesto of the country that was mandate from the Senate. So we gather a group of people working on that, and I was part of this team that we were suggesting what was the best way to tackle the AI challenge. No, so I'll be sharing a few things about that. So starting from AI on ads. So I don't know if you know, but I'm the founder of this company, AndesML, and the idea of us is how we can be the best retail media platform in this space. No, so I'll be talking a little bit about I'll give you some context of retail media, because maybe not many of you are aware of what retail media is or means. So something that so Satya Nadella is usually very well known for his quotes, and he has very good quotes. And something that has been quite interesting on the media space or the ad space is that there is a paradigm shift, because we were used to have or use Meta or Google, etc. Because as a media, or running our own digital media activities. And they were trying to convince us that they were the moment of truth when people were taking their purchase decision. So, but what the retailers realize is that they are really the point of purchase. So they have all this data where customers are. What are their intentions, their previous behaviors, etc. So this became one of the most important assets, obviously, of the retailers. So how can they leverage on this information, and how can they use it for other purposes that are not their own typical business? So we will be talking a little bit about that. So what is happening now in retail media? So these are numbers from in the US. So you can see that today, for example, in 2025, we expect to have a market almost of $70 billion. And 50 out of those 70, only in the US, are from Amazon ads. So this is a market that is growing. And one of the reasons why it's growing, because for the brands, it became a better channel, a better media channel. And what is coming behind this media channel is they not only have better performance, or at least the brands not only expect better performance to putting ads on e-commerces, but at the same time, they could have access to different insights. But what's going on here is there are two, so the e-commerces, what I used to say, they're too busy dying, most of these companies. They don't have the capabilities, or they don't have the focus nor the time to start their own media business. So I don't know if you know on e-commerce, but most of the e-commerces, they have, so in the US, for example, the average net profit of e-commerces is 0.6%. So let's say in average, half of these companies are losing money. And when we were thinking on e-commerce 30 years back, we were expecting at this point to be super profitable industry. So many of them are not profitable. And secondly, the very important thing that we understood is that the retailers or the e-commerces, they are not using their data properly. So they do some analysis, reporting, these kind of things, but the data is not used to improve their processes sometimes, or I don't know, to have better pricing models or inventory model assortment, etc. So there is a lack of use on the data. So, and the opportunity that they have is to create their own media network. You know? So it's important to imagine that, or at least for me, every commerce company will become an ad network somehow. They need to have a new revenue stream because it's highly profitable. They are leveraging on an asset that they already have, which is the traffic. So they don't need to reinvest to leverage on this asset. No? So every commerce will become an ad network, at least the big ones. And because they don't need to invest, it's a highly profitable business for them. It's a great new revenue stream. But the problem is that, again, as I said before, they don't have their all the capabilities to start their own company or their own revenue, their own media business. So this is where we come in when we were thinking to start this company. So understanding those challenges and the opportunity that they have. So how can we help them to create their own company, you know, their own this new revenue stream? So and we were kind of like highlighting what are those capabilities that they don't have and what we have. You know? So what are our strengths as a team at AndesML and how we can use them. So for example, the expertise on the market or all the AI capabilities that we built and that we will deep dive later in the presentation, because this is part of the core of this presentation, what we were considering when we built our own AI capabilities. And obviously we put together a SaaS. And actually we not only have a SaaS platform, but it's also an SMC platform that we have. So it's a self-managed component platform as well. So we can offer the two different models for our potential customers. And what is the beauty of this business is that we used to say that everyone is better off. So why? Because at the end, for the retailer activating this business, they have a new revenue stream, highly profitable. And the idea is with this new revenue stream is to offer personalized recommendations to the customer. For the customer, they have the ability to see new brands, new products that they usually don't see. Why? Because I don't know if you know, but in the retailers, like typical physical retailers or stores, it's more like Pareto. So 20% of the SKUs or products makes around 80% of the sales. But in online or marketplaces, usually is way more concentrated. So 5% of the SKUs or the products makes around 80%, 75% of the sales. So whatever is not in the first page, doing the analogy of Google, doesn't exist. No? So if you're not in the top positions when people is searching products, you don't exist. So many brands can be published in a website, but this doesn't mean that they are selling. No? So for customers, what they are seeing usually is very biased on the way that the e-commerces rank their products online, and the way that they used to rank the products is usually based on sales or CTR, but they're not using algorithms. They don't learn based on the click stream of the customer, depending on the customer, etc. No, so for the customer is a better value proposition as well, and for the brands, is a better media channel, and it's a channel that they have access to insights. No, it's not only because of the retailer has the customer in front. So the brands, all the brands that they don't have their own direct-to-consumer channels, it's important for them to learn what is their own customer behavior. What are the customers that are picking their brands, and know a little bit more on that. So access to insights. So this makes everyone better off. So some of the capabilities that we think are important is only obviously having a white label platform, because we don't exist in front of the brands, we exist in front of the retailers or the e-commerces, all the machine learning algorithms that we will deep dive. And obviously to have a product that is scale easily, flexible, secure, with high performance, and obviously having a comprehensive solution with all the formats that the brands need to promote their brand or their products online. So I'm going a little bit fast on this part because the idea is to concentrate on the algorithms and what we have built, but it's important to give you some context again of what we have been building. So remember of what I was saying in terms of the positioning of the product. So this is the typical CTR, for example, how the CTR position looks in Google. But in the e-commerces, usually it's way more important. Like the top 3 products represent around 8%. So this is why, in terms of the formats that the companies are using to promote their own products or brands, usually on-site search is the most used one. So if we consider, for example, Amazon ads, 75% of their revenues are coming from sponsored products or sponsored listings. So the way that, or this format that give access to the brands to promote their products in the search or the listing page. And the other 25, so 20% is around display ads, and 5% are around sponsored brands and many other products or formats that Amazon ads offer, for example. So these are the most used one for marketplaces. For companies that are usually starting, they use more display ads to promote brands instead of search. So here we will start deep diving a little bit more. So in our own capabilities. So one of the key elements is how we can recommend the right product or the banner to the right customer. So this is the whole thing. I usually don't, so whenever I go to an e-commerce or different kind of sites, I usually don't see at the first positions or in the main real estate that they have the right products. So how come we can get the right product? So we invested a lot of time to think what was the right pipeline for us. We know that obviously from our customers, we need to process the data. So we need to ingest data on our system somehow. We need to run some algorithms and recommend. So coming from the recommendation, we change the mindset here. So if we need to recommend the best thing, what are the best algorithms for that? And for the algorithms, what is the data that we need? So, and we know that usually 80% of our work was on the data part. So how can we avoid this 80% of the data piece, having the right pipelines to ingest the data and put our time in the algorithms, in tuning the algorithms, and trying to make those algorithms work and then recommend the right or the best thing. And a few other complexities that we were facing is our customers are coming from different industries: pharmacies, supermarkets, department stores, even a bank. The bank is something that I will leave for the end of maybe the conversation, because it's a different use, a little bit different use case, but interesting. So, so this is why we put a lot of effort on the pipeline of data. So how we process all this data, and how we can, and we don't know actually. We don't know what is the best algorithm to serve in all the different categories that we are working on. So, for example, a supermarket, they have liquors, or they have salads, or they have different things. Or in a department store where they have electronics, but at the same time, shoes. So sometimes we could have a guest. So we design a system that we will deep dive a little bit on this. So what is important to consider here is we have this input coming from the data. We have the other input coming from the campaigns that the advertisers, the brands are creating. And the combination of these two has to have the best recommendation or the best output as possible. And something that is quite important for us is we usually, coming from the operation of an e-commerce, we understand the nuances or the tension that exists between, let's say, a marketing manager with the commercial manager. The marketing manager is looking to, let's say, optimize the findability of the products or the sellout of the products on one hand, but having the best conversion rates. That could be automated, but for the commercial team, usually they promote the products or the brands that they are talking to or that they are partnered with or where they have the best contribution. So we need to consider those elements to have the best recommendation or to resolve this tension in the companies. So this is why the incrementality piece is so important, because at the end, sometimes the boost of products in most of the e-commerces has been doing manually. So because I consider that this product will sell the most, I will put it at the top. So how we can demonstrate that this could be the right or not decision from this company. So this is why the incrementality piece is quite important to all this framework. So deep dive a little bit on how the algorithms are working. We do have something that we call like the a competition of the different algorithms that we have. So and when I was saying that this is where we put the effort is so how we make them to compete, because anyone could come with a new algorithm, or we are, I don't know, testing the new Gemini, or we are testing the different boosting algorithms, etc. So all of them could be good ideas, or some of them could perform better for some categories or not, and we don't know with some of them. So this is why make this competition is so crucial, because at the end, the one who is winning is the one who is receiving the most traffic, and as a reward, no? So the one who is receiving, let's say, either more clicks, or it's getting a better ROAS, return on the ads, or more conversions. So there are different ways to optimize, let's say, this function to create the best performer, or to see what is the best performer. So the way that we split this sample of data, we are using other techniques for that as well. But this is super important because at the end they are competing. And depending on the kind of data that we receive from our customers, again, categories, etc., is that we put all these algorithms to compete. And we obviously provide some cold start features because sometimes we don't have an idea, or we don't have the data, or we don't have the clickstream to improve these algorithms. So this is a key element of our pipeline, and this is where we put the most of our time in order that we can innovate with our customers. So the other thing is, the other input is the campaign creation. So on the campaign creation, creating a campaign, I don't know if you have the experience creating campaigns, but usually you have to set keywords, budgets, you need to pick the categories, or to use the banners, and you need to pick the audiences. So, but at the end, how we can make this process super easy for our customers or for the advertiser, because the advertiser or the brand, usually they don't have the experience putting together campaigns, or they only care about selling. No? So this process of the setting of these campaigns should be super easy. No? And there are a few things that we're working with agents in how we can help those brands to make this process a little bit easier.
Actually, Tomas,
but
can you
again,
speak to
yeah,
go back one slide, please? I think this is a teachable moment here. Like for people that are not in this space, what is involved in a campaign? What is with without the newer technology, what's the older way of doing the campaign? And then what's the newer way of the campaign? And you know, that would be helpful for me to understand more about like how campaigns work and what innovations are available currently to make those more efficient.
super. Yeah, perfect, Jeff. So let's say 5 years ago, brands, no, more than five, let's say 10 years ago, brands didn't have any chance to create campaigns on the e-commerces. No? So the e-commerces, or let's say Amazon ads or Amazon.com or eBay or I don't know, Target, they didn't allow their brands or sellers to create campaigns on their own site. So then let's say 3 years after that, um, actually when I was at Falabella, we found this opportunity to start asking our brands or the brands if they were willing to invest a little bit to improve their positioning on their site. So for example, you have Nordstrom.com and you have the hero, and in the hero today is Samsung, but maybe LG is willing to pay more to be on the hero of Nordstrom. So Nordstrom was doing this manually, but then LG was asking um, Nordstrom how successful were we on this campaign. So we put and they didn't have any visibility. Um, Sometimes they didn't share the creativities. So they said, okay, it went well. Maybe you received 1,000 clicks. What does it mean? I don't know. Then this has been improving a lot. So now, let's say, coming back to the Amazon.com example, brands, I don't know, brands selling jeans, they're all like maybe 10,000 vendors. So if you are not paying to have the best position, you are not visible. And so if you are not visible, you are not selling. So when you're setting a campaign as a brand now, you have access to, okay, you pick the keywords or the words that are the most relevant when someone is searching for jeans. You will decide your budget and in which categories you want to participate on those campaigns. So you are planning the campaign. Um, you could have different kind of campaigns. So I was telling, for example, I don't know, like a sponsor brands or sponsor products campaign, like sponsoring only your product. Then you have campaigns like display or banners. So you need to add your creativity. And this creativity, let's say in this example that there is a Samsung one here, but in this case, whenever the brand is uploading a creativity is important from someone from, let's say, Nordstrom or Amazon to approve, because you can put some, or you can make some mistakes, for example, adding a creativity, and then you can pick the target or the segment that you want to focus on. No? Because if in a company like Amazon, for example, .com, if you leave everything open, will not be an efficient campaign for the brand. No? So you need to select what is the best way to set the campaign to go to the right audience, no? To get the best result as possible of this campaign. So where is this paradigm shift here is what companies were doing. They were doing campaigns on Meta or Google, but they didn't have the option to get these kind of audiences. Like if I am Samsung and I am promoting these kind of screens, I want to tackle or the gamer. For, let's say, Meta, for them it's hard to know who is a gamer, but for Amazon or for, let's say, Target or eBay or Best Buy, it's way easier, so they know who is a gamer. No? So this is the whole difference when e-commerces are selling or monetizing their first party data. I'm not sure if this is
So it
more
sounds
clear
to
now.
me like the old paradigm was more of a passive paradigm, where basically they just got whatever they got and didn't have a lot of insight into the results of what they were doing, and didn't have a lot of options in terms of how, or it didn't really have a way of determining of what their target audience was, how they wanted to do it, what kind of ads do they want to do, what approach they want to do. And that was like the, old school. And then the new school basically is where the companies are now active and they're more, involved and more like in the driver's seat, or at least in the passenger seat. Before maybe they were in the back seat or the trunk,
Exactly.
metaphorically. And so now they're at least a partner with the platform where they're putting that campaign to have involvement in terms of thinking about what type of campaign they want, what the target audience is, and also in terms of the getting more information about the outcomes of those campaigns to determine how to go forward.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
So, and obviously in this campaign creation, obviously the flow of the data that I was mentioning before is super important. So, how we are tackling this and getting the best. So we need to have the data ready, comparing all the customer behavior, the click stream, anything that we may know from the customer, and their affinity with the right products or services. So we do this match. So whenever there is an input from the campaign, we already know if this is the right campaign to show to the right customer. So this is the, let's say, the match that we are trying to do.
And is that an
Um,
ongoing process? Like, is that even within
yes.
the campaign? In other words, is it like more pr- um uh prospective, like, afterwards evaluating it, or actually during the campaign, then the company can sort of pivot and shift towards, optimizing what they're doing because they're spending some money on these things.
Yes, they can edit whatever they are doing. No? So they can change some parameters to improve the campaign, for example, if they are not doing well.
And they have like some
Um,
kind of dashboard that gives them data about how it's going and whatnot, I guess.
exactly. There are dashboards in real time with the results of those campaigns that when this everything was manually, obviously was not possible to do that. No?
Great.
So what brands should expect in compared to the average results from other media um, should be around 3 to 5 times a better return on the ad spending that they are putting. So this is why this is a better channel for them in terms of the performance. But what something that is
And
quite
sorry, Tomas, for people
important,
that don't know, ROAS, which was on the arrow slide, is
re,
revenue on average, I guess,
re,
advertisements sold or something like that.
return on ads, so means
Ads,
that
sorry.
yes. Um, so where is the main difference coming in from the retailers or the owners of this first party data is that they have this option um, to not only share this performance or better performance, but also to give access to some insights that usually for brands doesn't exist. No, so the visibility of the brand, or how competitive are they in terms of the price, or the content of their product. So maybe they are not selling well because the picture is not right, or the description of the product is not right, or because they are too expensive in compared to their competitors. But at the same time, so for brands, it's usually they don't know if, let's say, if a brand has a 10% market share in an e-commerce, which is a point of, so some data that our KPI that they usually don't have. So how come they could know if they are in the same 10% of the visibility of the site? So for example, when we were talking on the homepage, and the homepage has banners for this category, and out of this category, let's say electronics or LED TVs, and out of the LED TVs, how come LG knows that if their participation is 10%, they are participating 10% on the same real estate? No? So these are new KPIs or information that for the brands is important to know because they can manage way better the brand. No? So they were used to sell to the retailers or the e-commerces, and now they have access to more insights or potentially more. Not many platforms are doing these kind of things.
Sorry,
So, but
the percentage was what? The 10% was what? Sorry about that. I just didn't catch that.
So, for example, let's say LG participate 10% on LED TVs at Best Buy. So out of the LED TVs in Best Buy, so 10% is the share that LG has.
Oh, like
So
inventory. It's the inventory.
no, in terms of sales or turnover.
Sales. Okay. Okay.
Yes. So the question is, do they know if they are participating the same percentage on the real estate of the site?
Okay. The same percentage as the percentage of sales in the real estate of the. Okay.
Or is more, or is less.
Okay.
So if this is less, obviously, if I would be LG, I would be pushing to have more visibility on the site. No?
Okay.
So these are the kind of, but they don't know. They don't know today. No? But in terms of the, let's say what is important of this market of ads, etc., is how these different platforms like us, we help our customers to be the go-to in the market, so they are a better media than the competitors, or how these platforms could create this one-stop shop so they can offer different kind of ways to monetize their site. But then you must provide different ways to test as well, because it's the only way to learn on this space. So providing testing, so for the brands, they can understand what are the formats that are performing the best, which time, which seasonalities, etc. And then eventually there will be a consolidation in this market, because the brands, they don't want to start investing, for example, their budget in as many platforms as e-commerces or retailers that they have in the world. No? So there will be a consolidation, and maybe this will happen something similar to what happened with programmatics and what happened with Google, for example, a long time ago, and the integration with the media agencies and stuff, which is a little bit more forward-looking if you want. No? So this is kind of like what we were considering, what were the main elements when we were thinking on AndesML to consider in how we can help the retailers to put together this business, and for the brands to have a platform that can help them to understand and improve the way that they manage their business, and obviously for the end customer to have a better value prop from the companies that they usually use to make the purchases. No? So which is our customers at the end. So this is kind of like let's say a snapshot of what we have been doing. More than happy to answer more questions. And the idea now is to talk a little bit on what we have been doing in Chile in terms of data. So in Chile, we were that obviously I would say most of the countries were they are in this debate about AI, how to consider AI. No? So what happened in Chile was the Senate asked a group of people, that I am part of this group, to create our own manifesto of the country and how we use the data, which is something that is a document that we will be sharing to the audience or the public soon, in a few weeks. And my idea here is to present it's a completely different conversation than the previous one. So the previous one was more about what were the elements to the AI elements to start a company, and here is about how we in a country we are discussing about AI and how we are tackling the different challenges that are coming with AI. No? So something that is quite important that obviously most of you know that, and we are considering that obviously AI will create this deep transformation in many areas. But the adoption of AI should be ethical, inclusive, uh, and focus on the and how we can focus on the productivity and the social well-being of the country. You know? So some research, which is some interesting here, that I saw other countries that they have kind of like the same stats, is that AI could help 80% of the workers, speeding up around 30% of their task. So in summary, we can tell, which is not a direct math, but this could have an impact around 10, 12% of the GDP. So the main first discussion that we had on this group was, are we seeing AI as an opportunity or as a threat? No? And we decided, thankfully, that this is an opportunity for the country. Obviously, there are some threats because at the same time, there is some research that there are around 13 to 15% of the people or workers that could be very affected by AI, at least in Chile. So, which means is we need to think in a way to convert or to help them to convert these people in other jobs in the country. No? So, and to start discussing about this,
Sorry, Tomas, how did they, we can take it offline, but my question was, how did they come up with the fact that, if you go to the previous slide, that was it improving the performance of, I forget exactly the numbers, but how did they do a study? Well, how did they figure that out?
yes, so they were some universities doing research for some time, like 6 months, um, trying to understand. Yeah, there is a huge report on how they come up with those numbers. So this impact on the 12% of the GDP or the 8% of the task of the labor, the workers, and the around 30% of their tasks. So they were analyzing all the different tasks that they have in a day, in a week, by different jobs. So it was a deep research, and there were two organizations running those research from the university side on one side, and there is another one that is called the Data Observatory as well, that they launched a report here in Chile, because something that maybe not many people know, but here in Chile we produce a lot of data. So there is an interesting asset on data in the country, and this is why we want to become this hub of AI data in Latin America, at least, because of the observatories. So the observatories produce almost the same amount of data than Google, YouTube, Facebook all together in one day. Why? Because at the end they are taking pictures of the sky, and I don't know. I think there are like 2 billion galaxies, and they are obviously all these observatories that are based in the country. They are taking pictures, and they need to decide when or where to take pictures, because it's super expensive for them. And this is why we have big hubs from Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, and Azure here in the country. But I wanna speed up a little bit here because I wanna open a few questions if the people has some questions. But we set this framework. This is something that I personally suggest. So I'm very familiar with the framework, which is it has 5 elements from the strategy. So what is our strategy as a country? What are the value drivers that we think AI could come, and what are the capabilities that we need to build or have as a country? What are the assets that we will be developing? And what is the best model adoption that we should have? No? So this is the framework. Some people could like it, some people could not like it, or maybe but the idea is to have a very comprehensive framework in how to not only, because there are many people focusing on ethics or education, or so how can we have a comprehensive framework of AI and how to push AI? And obviously, AI is not a strategy itself; it's a strategy that should serve the country's strategy. No? There is another political question: if we do have a real or clear strategy as a country, which is a completely different discussion that we can have maybe afterwards. But the main elements in terms of the value is what success look like. So how are we measuring this impact in the social well-being or the GDP or etc.? What are those initiatives creating this value, either by sector, by region, um, and what are those initiatives that are at a national level? No, so this is the other um, important thing, and this specifically that there is a focus in how we can reduce the bureaucracy of the state. No. Whenever you're starting a company, whenever you're launching or you need to launch a new project, etc. In terms of the capabilities, obviously there is one on R&D. There is another one that is, there are some Asian countries working pretty well on this combination between the private and public sector and how we can join forces. What is happening on the universities, the schools in terms of their programs and how they're using AI, how they are training on AI. What is the governance and what is the role of the institutions in terms of the, what is this? We used to say in Spanish, el rayado de cancha, or the area that we will be playing. So what like a safe environment, a collaborative environment, obviously with ethics, etc. In terms of the assets, what is happening with the data? So in Chile, we do have a law that all the data from the public institutions is public data. So how can we have access to this data? So there are different portals that you could have access to this data. Is this data? How are we managing this data? What are the platforms that we can use to connect with this data and export the data? Another asset is, okay, but one thing is to be educating or having the education programs, but at the same time, okay, but what is the talent that we need on AI? Do we need, let's say, 30,000 people expert on machine learning algorithms? What we need for what areas, etc. And what is this small adoption? No? So whenever there is a new project, how are we considering the data from the very beginning of the project? No? And how are we organizing, for example, this operating model between the public sector and the private sector, and how we are involving all the Chileans? You know? So in Chile, we do have 5G almost in the whole country now, Wi-Fi in the whole country with the highest speed almost in the world. So there is some access to the network. So, and we are providing, let's say, most of the people at least have phones, not most of them, not anyone has a laptop, for example, but how everyone can start using and leveraging on this. No? I will be fasting the next couple of slides to be finishing and then open for questions. So there's some strategies and the capabilities that we were considering, but it's almost like the same thing that I was saying before. But here is one of the key pieces where how come we can have this competitive advantage in the sectors that are important for the country? No? So I don't know how many of you know, but in this country, such a long country, in the north we have the desert, in the south we have Patagonia, in the central of the country we have the productivity of fruits and vegetables, etc., with the wine industry. So how we can do this strategy or to have doing the analogy with a company, where are these use cases coming from? No? So from the mining industry, from the agriculture industry, forest industry, etc. Whatever that makes that we can have a competitive advantage, obviously, in the country. No? So these are the areas of focus for the country. and that the people will be working in this collaborative effort between the public sector and the private sector, obviously. No, so but we are setting the standards in how we can do that. No, but this is uh, obviously is a process that will take a long time to start seeing the results of this. We are just in the first chapter of this book, setting the right elements to drive this strategy in the country. No? So this is it. I tried to go quite fast. I know that many of you, maybe you're not the expert. Here is my email if you want to know a little bit more about this. I'm happy to take some questions now. I'm not sure if
I didn't see anything in the chat. Can you go back to the slide before the end? If no one else has a question, if anyone else has a question, I've asked a few questions so they can trump me. It's fine, but if
yeah,
not, I do have a question.
Give me 1 second.
Because it was on that very interesting in terms of the different regions. And yeah, there. Where it's interesting, green mining, water management, and you're talking about AI and solar and wind energy and precision agriculture, all like so much of a variety of different areas where you're talking about, AI. Where are we right now? Are we just the first inning? Or are we before the first inning? Or where are we in these endeavors in Chile?
So in average, at least private companies in the country. So we are in the very early stage to respond your question on this. So this is why the idea is to support this and to promote more. But some analysis that the team was doing is there is in average 1.3, 1.4 use cases by company on AI. There is no, also, there are a lot of people talking, there are a lot of people maybe using, let's say, ChatGPT to improve a little bit their grammar in an email, these kind of things. No? But so the important thing is what are the bases to set a strategy that will drive the country. No? This is again a manifesto, so it's difficult to, and the idea is to put some pressure on the Senate, for example, to pass or to create this or to foment the help of the R&D, or what are the Ministry of Education saying about AI, for example. So we need to promote many discussions, or if there, or for example, there is another organization in the country that is super important that is called Corfo. What will be the role of Corfo, which is the company or the institution that foment new industries or new or cutting edge activities for the current industries that we have. And Corfo could invest up to 3% of the GDP of the country to those initiatives. So it's a lot of money. So they can support, for example, activities whenever, let's say, a private company is not willing to invest with so much risk on, I don't know, for example, for the salmon industry. We found out that the oxygen plays a super important role because if the salmons doesn't have oxygen, they can breathe, so they can eat. So they are small salmons, no? So how come you have oxygen, for example, on the ocean? There are some techniques using AI, for example, and how to promote depending on the sunlight and other things, more oxygen or less oxygen for the salmons. So those activities, some companies are not willing to invest at the very beginning if the technology will work or not using AI. So how there is a collaboration between these public institutions and the private sector to promote those, no? And these are some areas of focus. So if you're a company on those areas, the idea, this is a suggestion, by the way, but so the idea is to promote those that can really create a difference in the country. No? So this is what the purpose to be promoting those areas. No? Then obviously it's up to the state institutions to say, no, I will be only focusing on one, for example, healthcare, because it's one of the top priorities, or security is one of the top priorities in the country. Say, I don't care of agriculture until, I don't know, 3 years more, but let's focus only on one. And whatever is coming with a project on security that is using AI to prevent assaults, for example, okay, let's promote those kind of initiatives. No? But the idea is to set the standards and to promote the activities that will help to drive the GDP of the country using AI. No?
It sounds like first step is you have all these possibilities of these different sectors and determine which one should be prioritized. And then within those areas or sectors, then figure out, okay, what companies, what groups are trying to do X, Y, and Z, and then vet them accordingly to determine where this 3% of GDP is going and to use it
Yes,
wisely.
yeah, obviously it's up to the 3%, but obviously it's not that they're investing. This is up to, no, they have a budget at the end as any public institution to do things. But of course, this is again a suggestion in how the Senate should manage and promote and enforce some things. No, obviously something that they are taking care more today is about the data, the labor, and I don't know, these kind of things. But the idea is to combine the capabilities that we need as a country, but obviously focusing those capabilities in the areas that we will get the best return as a country as well, no? The
Yep.
areas of growth.
Does anyone else have any other questions they want to ask? It looked like there was someone
Yeah.
that put a comment in the. Oh, it's a thank you. Okay. If anyone else wants to, please chime in. We probably we're at 1 o'clock, but we probably have room for one more question if someone wants to ask.
Can I ask a sort of slightly philosophical? I think I'm relatively new to this group and
Oh, please.
novice when it comes to AI as well to some extent. I'm just trying to understand what is meant by AI in this context, perhaps looking more specifically at the e-commerce case study. My experience of AI is being chat GPT and things like that, where it feels like you're talking to a human being effectively in the computer that can think and basically access huge amounts of data off the internet and come up with answers which are not always correct, and which you can actually have a conversation. My recent example was they actually apologized that it got it wrong and corrected itself. So they're quite humble as well, these AI engines, it seems. But how is that kind of concept being applied in the case of the e-commerce engine? Because it looks like actually all you're doing is we're going to write a whole bunch of software with algorithms to solve this problem and manipulate the data using normal kind of data analysis tools, as opposed to doing anything more clever than that.
So the first, maybe the best way to see AI, Jamie, is you have, or a good analogy is AI is your brain, but has a left side and the right side.
Right.
The right side, the creativity side, is Gen AI, what you were mentioning, this conversation with ChatGPT. Okay, so Gen AI, right side, creativity, creating, I don't know, images, you can talk or etc. Right side. But the left side is what we usually call the analytical AI.
Right.
It's how you can do, for example, forecasting algorithms, how you can learn from whatever is events you're receiving, or how you can put better pricing or running assortment, or so more, let's say, analytical logic things. So the previous, but both are AI.
Mm-hmm.
Both are AI. So this is a good analogy, maybe for you to see the differences. So in the first example of AndesML is full on analytical AI, and we do have some examples with Gen AI to create those creativities, for example, or to find keywords for our customers. These kind of things. No? But it's a small So we combine both, but it's 80% analytical AI or 90% and 10% Gen AI on the previous example.
And I would say,
Okay.
Jamie, that generally speaking, when I think about as a operation, like for someone who operationalizes machine learning, I think about toolkit, and I think about what's the use case and what's the problem, and how can I use the tools to optimize the solution for that problem, which is, involving a combination, like Thomas is saying, if something that's traditional machine learning, whatever, analytics even, works, use that. Occam's razor, simplest approach is the right approach. But other times it's important to have creative aspects, generative aspects. So you have to sort of just, have a good heterogeneous toolkit and then, choose wisely in terms of what you're going to utilize for that.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah.
And Tomas, there's as part of that, thank you, there's a question in the chat that if you have time, you could.
I didn't read. Let me see. Anastasia.
You want me to read it or you want me to?
Sorry for putting you on the spot, Thomas.
Yeah.
Just
Hi,
looking at
how
it
are
from
you,
a
Anastasia?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking at it from a UK perspective, where here I assume retailers are operating differently to Chile, and I was wondering if you have any insights or if you consider that.
So our company is, so we do have people in Spain, in India, in Chile, in Argentina, so in different countries. And the challenges that most of those companies are facing is almost the same. So people from my team, for example, they were used to work at Rakuten, Tesco, different companies, and what we have find out is quite similar. Obviously, when you're serving, so this is something that I was trying to highlight on the presentation, which is if we do have a supermarket as a customer, the algorithms that will work are different than for department stores because the rationale, the customer behavior, etc., is different. But this is the let's say the fine tuning that we do whenever we are implementing with customer. But in general, the differences in the markets are not so big. The adoption has been quite fast in all the countries.
So if I were, sorry, follow up. If I were to compare you with like a company like Criteo, for example, would you say you're direct competitors of them and better?
Yes.
Or this? Okay.
Yes, it's a direct competitor, but with the company that they acquire an Israeli company called Mabaya. So this is and they are Mabaya is so now Criteo is branding their service. Not only that they used to do this is a little more marketing stuff, but for the rest of the audience, but Criteo was used to be a remarketing platform, no? So, but now when they acquired Mabaya a couple of years or like 3 years ago, they started adopting this use of the first party data as well. And we do have a lot of differences that I prefer to talk offline. But we are the new coming in. So obviously in terms of the infrastructure, the algorithms, the proprietary algorithms, and a few things that are, I would say, a little bit more modern as well.
Okay, great. I think we're over time a little bit, so I want to be respectful of people's time. It looks like we answered, I think, what the questions that came up. I think is it Anastasia? Thank you
Yes.
so much for asking a question and being so bold as to be able to be put on the spot. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the question. Thank you so much. It helps to get input from the audience and to make it more helpful for everyone. So thank you. And thank you for everyone for attending. And we have another event coming up in responsible AI. I think it's next month. And so there'll be announcements coming forward, about that. And if people are interested in giving talks, whatever, please reach out to myself or George. And then we can, set that up and queue it up. So, and Thomas, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great seeing you all. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So.